Felicia
From the
Michaels,
moment
my
you hear
princess,
his voice, you
has
know
been entertaining
there are
audiences
problems.
with a unique
Joey
style
Coco Diaz has
of
been rocking
provocative humor
comedy
since the
stages for
90s, all right?
15 years.
With her
You've seen him in
tongue-in-cheek,
films and
she's been
television,
exploring
but
such
his
topics
real
as the
patois,
dynamics
as
of
his
the
fond to say,
male-female
are the
relationships,
stories from
or
his
as we call them
past
here in
and
the
his
studio,
chaotic
dirty
views on
thoughts,
life that will make
and
this
the
podcast
proliferation
a different
of the
beast.
sensual
Raw
feminist.
pain and
She's a little
passion is how to
firecracker
really
rolled up, and that's why I
describe
love
this
her, and that's why you're going to love
New
listening. So
Jersey
tune in, all right?
animal. I am, by the way, the world's greatest translator of mumbling. My kids mumble to me all the time, and I know exactly what they're saying. The other day, my oldest was like, and I said to him, "How dare you call me that after every fucking thing I do for you?"
Mumbles.
That's all. I'm storming around like some kind of house Nazi with the other living beings in my house. Why is that? Where I'll just have a week where I'm fucking house Nazi. And today, I actually, before you came over here, stormed into the bathroom because a certain dog kept hanging around the toilet bowl all gleamy like, and I had to like fling open the toilet seat. And I thought to myself, you're so lucky I let you drink out of the place where the rest of us leave our excrement. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's what, and then I feel bad, and then I give him filtered water. But I'm sure by next week I'll be house Nazi again.
You don't give a fuck. These dogs don't give a fuck.
Looking at him like, you're so lucky I let you search for sustenance in the trash can.
It's amazing how they drink fucking water from the street and nothing happens to them and shit.
Yeah.
It's amazing they can break that stuff down.
Yeah, and yet they can't digest a pebble where I always have to pay $3,000 to get it removed from his stomach.
That's the weirdest of the weirdest, you know what I'm saying?
Isn't that weird? I don't eat pebbles. I don't think you need to be able to, you know, come up with your own language to understand you shouldn't eat pebbles.
I'd eat my own fucking Cocoa Pebbles, but they're too high in points, you know what I'm saying? I was looking at them the other day. When I was a kid, there was a dog on my block that used to fucking chew on rocks. He had no teeth left. He would just chew on them. I mean, it was down to he had nothing.
Right.
And he would just chew on them, and every time you see him, he had a rock, and he'd spit it on you, and you had to throw the rock. And I'm like, is this it? This is as primitive as it gets. There's no ball at your house. The O'Rourke's, they lived like 3 doors up from me, and they were pretty interesting. And they had a little kid, Timmy, who was about 6 or 5, cutest little boy you ever seen. And he ran with this fucking killer. And in those days, there was no leash.
Right.
You know, there was no leash.
A dog had to fend for himself.
But there was no pit bulls either, attacking people, so it was a different way of life. But this dog went everywhere with this kid. And he always had a boulder in his mouth. And he chewed this fucking rock down to the nib. I don't know. With his gums and saliva, he'd break this rock down.
Right.
He was
maybe he just had a boulder fetish.
No, maybe he was a sculptor in a previous life. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe he was trying to sculpt out little messages.
It's amazing.
Like,
it's amazing.
Please play with me.
You love your dog, Felicia?
Attention. You know what? I love my dog. And I have to say that I love my dog because he is a good watchdog. And he has the loudest bark, and he is effing big.
He's big.
He's big, and so he does his job. But at the same time, to the insiders in the house, he is just...
He just knocks shit over with his tail.
The goofiest... yeah, like you'll be standing there. His tail is so big when he wags it, it'll whack you. You know how people, like bullies used to do that in high school where they would come and like buckle you the back of your knee or whatever? He does that with his tail, and you're like, what the fuck? And I know you've seen me do this where I get on him because you could be drinking a cup of coffee and he'll nudge your elbow and then you'll spill it on yourself like while you're on the computer, you know, doing online banking,
he just
making
wants
a big transaction.
That's all he wants. Yeah.
I know,
but
the doctor said them chewing on rocks, it's a sign of obsessive compulsive behavior.
Sure,
which makes me even angrier.
Sure
like, dude, you can't figure
right
to
away.
Turn
give
out,
the fucking
turn
dog
on
a
the
label.
Hose.
Right, that's how bad our society is. That we give the dog a fucking label.
I know.
So he's eating rocks now. He's excessive compulsive. Let's put him in a class and make him sit around with a fucking bib and a Hannibal Lecter thing on.
Yeah,
I can't take it no more.
You know, if his body is able to figure out that he's not getting enough attention, then his body ought to be able to figure out how to turn that fucking hose on. That's all I gotta say.
I had a kid when I was a friend. When I was a kid, I had a friend. His name was Jimmy Balzano, and he had a dog, Tramp. And I don't know what type of dog Tramp was. He was like a mix of everything, but Tramp would fucking bite you. And he was small, and he went everywhere, Felicia. I mean, I seen that dog walking out by the Meadowlands on Route 3. He didn't give a fuck, that dog.
Right.
And when you pet him, his coat was like, he was so dirty that it had ingrained in his fucking coat. Tramp.
Oh, yeah?
He was just filthy.
Yeah.
And Jimmy would sleep with the dog. I mean, anywhere Jimmy went, this dog went. You know, it was just an amazing thing to see it. And whenever I think of, like, every once in a while, I just see a dog, and I'm like, fucking last dog I seen crossing the street on his own was Tramp. Tramp used to stop traffic and shit on fucking Kennedy Boulevard and Turnpike on Tunnelly Avenue. He'd stop traffic, and people would stop him. It was something amazing. You can't do that shit today. I almost seen a dog got hit on Vermont the other day, a little Chihuahua. Almost got hit on Vermont. People fucking sliding. It was tremendous. My heart stops.
I know, because you are an animal lover. You are the lover of animals.
I hate
and
when
I
I'm
mean that
driving.
in a good way.
I hate that when I'm driving and I see something on the road, my heart stops.
Oh, yeah.
For like 2 minutes before I drive up on, I'm like, am I going to have to fucking pull over and pick it's a bag or somebody's leg or luggage or something. It don't matter, you know what I'm saying? But you always look and see. We're back, bitches! Beauty and the Beast podcast. Welcome to all you podcasters out there in Podcastville.
Joey Diaz.
Felicia Michaels looking better than fucking ever as usual.
Well, thank you
How
very
are you,
much,
my
Mr.
love?
Diaz. I'm good.
It's
I'm
a cloudy, cold day here in Los Angeles, anti-Los Angeles. People don't know what the fuck to do when the weather's off here. People don't know how to act. Their metaphysical's off. Me, I don't give a fuck. I just keep on ticking and talking, you know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
Just like you. Weather does not affect us.
It does not affect me, although when it's cold, I do lay in bed a lot with hot tea.
Nothing wrong with that, you know
Right?
what I'm saying?
That's not so bad,
when it's
right?
cold, I sit on the couch and scratch my nuts. We all have a weakness. One man's chicken is another man's fucking goomble. You know what I'm saying?
If I understood what you're saying, I would know what you're saying.
Well, I thought you were the king fucking mumbler. You know what I'm saying? Now figure it out.
I can't translate mumble.
Jesus Christ.
I'm such a liar. You know what? I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but I got this email, or on the comment board, there was a guy that left a comment that said, hey, you said you had a friend whose brother barked at it like a dog in the insane asylum, and I thought you said that was your brother. And I was like, no, it was my friend's brother. And then I thought to myself, maybe I did say it was my brother. And then I wrote him like, I don't think so, but maybe I did, because I do sit next to you sometimes when you are smoking the blunt of life. And you know what I mean?
Things happen. You get foggy.
You wonder
know what
why I'm all of a sudden very quiet.
Yeah,
it's because Mr. Man is over here smoking the blunt of life.
You got to open up some days with the blunt of life just to rearrange it. Yesterday I went to yoga and we worked on balance first. That was the blunt of life. You know what I'm saying? Some days it's the blunt. Some days it's the jumping jack. Some days it's just a stretch. You just got to work it out. You just got to try it and figure it the fuck out, you know?
Well, you know what? Today I woke up. I slept 4 hours last night because I worked on the podcast all night. And I got to tell you, I get really nervous about what I pick and choose to put into the podcast. Because sometimes, you guys, honestly, sometimes we talk about stuff and then we get to a point where we're like, what the fuck were we talking about? And so but sometimes we make really good points, but then, not everything kind of goes together as a podcast.
This podcast is like
look,
Seinfeld.
I'm editing it. I'm
Shit
learning
happens.
how to put something together. This is all part of the process of trying something new. And I was totally a little nervous about last week's podcast, the one that just went up, by the time you guys get this last week, because we talked through our stories a little bit about the Kardashians and how, it affects, the easily influenced. And by the way, we got a comment on our comment page saying that you are totally right on, but the comment was also really fair, because it's like, look, I like to pick and choose from things to think about from what both of you are saying. And I thought that was a really awesome comment, because the point is, I think a good podcast, or anything you want to listen to that's not a beautiful thing like music, it has to be competing ideas or stories that make you think about everything. Even great music makes you think about it, everything. You know what I mean? And it's good that we don't agree on certain stuff. And I love that sometimes you make a stand on something, and I wouldn't have never thought in 1,000 years I might kind of throw my idea that way. But the way you present it, and through what you've learned in stories, or just fucking around, or letting our minds wander together, or whatever, that I worry about what people think that I'm putting on the podcast. And I don't know if that sounds like a pussy-like thing to say, but because you know, some of the stuff when you talk about, when you use street language, you know, it kind of makes me, meaning, you know what I'm saying.
Well, here's the deal,
It makes
Felicia.
me
The reason why
nervous.
we're doing a podcast, the reason why radio is down now is because podcasts are taking over. And why? Because people got sick and tired of hearing AC/DC Back in Black every fucking day. AC/DC's got 6 fucking albums, but every day I got to hear Back in Black, which tells me that people want to hear the same fucking shit every day.
I agree.
And people want to hear the same gibberish on the way going home or whatever. I'm not saying this podcast is the best. I'm not saying this podcast is the worst. I'm saying that the freedom of the podcast is the freedom to be able to say what the fuck you want to say. And some people, hey man, you got to break an omelet to make you got to break an egg to make an omelet. And I'm the king of that shit. And I know sometimes people fall, people get insulted or whatever. Anybody who listens to this podcast and who knows anything about me or you knows when I speak from the heart. You know, I'm old enough and I've had enough life experience to know what I want to do and what I don't want to do and how I feel about them. But I don't really worry about what goes down in this podcast because that's why people listen to it, to hear our heart and our soul, not to hear advertising or to hear comedy dates or to hear about, you know, Richard Pryor and what. They don't want to listen to that shit. They could listen to 1,000 podcasts. What makes this podcast different is, A, it's like Seinfeld. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen today. I have no fucking idea. Okay, that's number one. And number two, the reason why I enjoy doing this podcast is because of the freedom. The freedom to have that choice. And the freedom to say, I live in Hollywood, but I don't want to act like these fucking people. You follow me? I live in Hollywood, but I don't want to believe in the same beliefs that these people. Ever since I was a kid, you know, you got to be careful of what you fucking want in life. When I was 15, I used to always say, I always want to work at night, and I want my days free, and I just want to have a little money in the bank. When I say money in the bank, I mean $50 to get a bag of weed and to get Chinese food. I never wanted for much. And at this point in my life, that's what I've had now. I don't even know how I make money. I don't even know. I just wake up in the mornings and do a gig for George Perez or somebody, or my own gig. I don't even know anymore.
Give me a gig with George Perez.
So it's really weird how you have to look at this. When I got into this podcast thing, it was because I didn't want to talk about how I got into comedy. I didn't want to talk about, in a way, Martin Sheen. I didn't want to talk about how brilliant he was, what he's doing. I wanted to talk about what the fuck is really going on with this guy. And the expertise that we have is that we've crossed that fence, and I'm able to say it. When I did fucking blow, I know where he's coming from. Or, you know, the Kardashians, how they affected me, or how somebody affected me, whether it's Charles Bronson. I mean, the Kardashians affect me in a way, because I know what I don't want to do in my life. I know that I don't want to be that phony, or that I don't want to be at every game. I don't want to do these things.
I'm glad that you said it in that way, that their effect on you is you can pick and choose, or you're deciding what you don't
that's
want to
what
do.
The media is, Felicia.
Right.
The media is for you. Listen, I'm a Catholic. I went to Catholic school. I was born and raised a fucking Catholic. When people talk about Catholics, I get fucking offended. I don't say nothing because I'm sure I offend people every fucking day of my life. I keep it to myself. You know, when my wife makes little quotes about Catholic shit, I gotta tell you, it bothers me. But she's not lying. A, she ain't lying.
Well, what does she say about
you know, little things. Oh, another priest fucks a kid in the ass. B, she ain't fucking lying. You know, she ain't lying. So I can't, when somebody's not lying, I cannot be mad at them, even if it affects me and makes me feel. So I pick and choose what I see. If I'm a fucking Momo, and I hate to put it this way, and I'm worried about, if you look at me, I have no tattoos. I got no piercings, I got no goatee, I got a fucking head, and it's ugly as shit, but I do the best with what I got. But I've never tried to prove to be somebody else. And that's the beauty about my life. Since day one, I never wanted to be somebody else. So anything I do, whether it's stand-up, my comedy, my podcast, my life, I don't want it to be like anybody else. And that's one of the things I've chosen, I've picked, and I've had that freedom. And why? Because I know how people live in Cuba. And I know that when somebody tells you something in Cuba, you have to live and die by that. Here, I don't give a fuck what Brad Pitt looks like. I'm slinging dick just like Brad Pitt. His body in Fight Club was great. He did 1,000 sit-ups and he drank water and he counted his points. But it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me. It shows me what I want and what I don't want in life. And that's what media should do for people.
Right.
But for people to go, you know, I've read little things. You know, when I go to the airport, I like to shoplift. You know,
I know you're a shoplifter.
When I go to the airport, I like to shoplift People magazine. I don't have the balls.
And lighters.
I don't have the balls to buy People magazine.
Really?
I don't have the balls to buy People magazine.
To steal a People's
but
magazine.
I love to go to the airport. I love to go to the airport, buy a Milky Way or Tic Tacs put it in my pocket, and on the way out, walk out with a newspaper and a People. And I like to read People because I'm a little cunt like everybody else in life. You follow me?
But you don't want to pay to be a cunt like everybody else.
Fuck that shit. I'm
You're
going
getting
against the
cunt
grain.
On wholesale prices.
So I'm reading this People magazine, and I read what people read, and then I read like the comments. Like they have the first page where it shows what people thought about the story last week, and you read about these people in Middle America, and Felicia, this is their life.
But Joey, that's okay.
They're living like, oh no, hey bro, I'm not here criticizing. I'm just saying.
Well, because I'm just saying that because
this is their life.
The guy that left the comment where we started talking off on this Action Dan on our Facebook page, he wrote and he called the people that you're talking about dummies. That's the only thing I didn't like about his comment.
Well, don't worry about
because
let's
worry
about
let's
the
have a great
comments
conversation and be very loose with what we're saying. But when we're talking seriously, let's say the easily influenced. Just for me,
yeah,
can we just
you
know what I mean? Just
so
we can hang our hat on something. You know what I mean?
So I sit there and I look at this fucking thing and I think to myself, hey, these people are fucking crazy. They actually believe. Hold on.
All right.
But then at the same token, I must say, when they read my tweets about the blunt of life and going to yoga, they must think I'm fucking crazy too. Do you understand me?
Oh,
so with me, everything goes both ways.
Thank you for saying that.
You understand me, Felicia?
Yeah.
With me, everything goes both ways. And I'll give you an explanation for both fucking ways. Do you follow me? I don't choose to do that. I don't want to be a fucking Hare Krishna.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm a Catholic, bitch. And I'll be a Catholic. When they bury me, the fucking guy's going to do the last sacrament on me, which is anointing of the dead or the sick or whatever the fuck it is. Funeral or whatever it is. But I love practicing Buddhist philosophies. I love reading up about Santeria. I love reading about Judaism, you know. And in my daily life, I put all these religions together and how I believe. I don't believe wholeheartedly about the Christians and churches and all this shit, but I understand what they were trying to do. And that makes my life a lot easier. I'm not going to sit here and put down the Lutherans and all that. I don't even like talking about religion, but I'm just giving it as an example.
Right.
I borrow from each one. The same thing applies to the media and what you want to pick from it. Then you didn't put the good ones up.
Which ones?
2 of them with lingerie on them, but you didn't put the good ones up.
Oh, because I think, well, here's the thing. You asked me what I did.
They had a fucking bustier on you and they didn't really enhance your titties. I didn't like that. I wanted to enhance your titties.
Well, you know.
They hit them and then you crossed your legs. I want to see the fucking monkey. I want to see the weight distribution.
Oh, I wasn't going to show
that's
the
what
monkey.
guys want to see. I'm just pitching you. No, I didn't want to see the monkey. I just want to give, when you don't, I don't like when women show you their pussy. I like the illusion.
Yeah.
So you just, with the bikini on or whatever you had, the bustier, the Madonna fucking thing you had on, if you just spread your legs a little bit and smiled or something, it's the, but you have good pictures. You didn't put the good ones up.
No, I
you
have
only
some
put
good ones.
2
Because
ones.
you know why? I'm going to save one of them for either a new website or I'm thinking about, I want to do my own comedy DVD or something. And I have this one picture where I'm holding the light bulb. And I said to the activity partner, I go, yeah, I have this really beautiful, sexy, sassy picture, and I'm holding this light bulb above my head, like it's an idea, but it's this gigantic light bulb. It's like, it was an old movie light bulb from like the 50s or 60s or something. It's gigantic. And we did this thing where a light comes out of it, and it's a really cool, pretty picture. And I go, yeah, and I think I'm going to call the DVD, A Whore and Her Bright Ideas. And he was like, that's a terrible title. And I was like, I think that's a funny title.
Well, nobody wants their lady to call themselves a whore. You know what I'm saying?
I
think it's hysterical. I think it's brilliant, but I'm looking at it from an outsider. You're not my girlfriend or my mom, My mom's got a great CD out. My whore gets great ideas. Can you imagine yourself?
So maybe I won't call it that.
Can you imagine yourself now for show and tell? Coming to the stage is His mother. Let's give her a round of applause. Oh, for you people who don't know her, she's the award-winning author. She's on Beauty and the Beast podcast, and she's also Grammy award-winning CD for what's the name of that again, Felicia? What is it? The Whore Has Bright Ideas. Let's keep it going for Felicia Michaels. And the kids are mummified, looking at you. Some of them are looking at you with that look in their eye when they're 12, looking at you like, Mom, you got the fucking answer to my problems.
By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. That's all I gotta say.
No, I like the title for it, but I understood what he was like. Come on.
I know.
If you're going to be a whore, you're going to be my fucking whore. That's our secret. You know what I'm saying? That's how we think. If you're gonna be a whore, you're gonna be my fucking whore, and that's our little secret. That's how guys really think when we're with somebody. We like when we break the whore out of you, but then we get scared. You know what I'm saying? And then we don't want nobody else to find out.
I did have a moment after he was like, "That's a terrible idea," and he was very serious about it with a cigarette in his hand. You know what I mean? He's like, "That's a terrible idea." And then I thought to myself, you know what? I really need to just edit what I'm saying a little bit more. You know, and keep it to myself. You know, but it's comedy. It's comedy. You know, it's comedy. That's why I thought it was funny.
Listen, you know, your mother sucking a dick is comedy, but you never want to think about it. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying even me as a child. As you get older, you're like, my mom never sucked a dick. You know, you never want to believe that, but it's comedy. It's like, my mom sucked a dick, and it's fucking comedy. Who cares? But you never want to believe that your mom did it because it's your mom. That's why a boyfriend or a husband or an activity partner doesn't want even the word whore associated with his little petunia. Fucking phenomenal, interesting podcast this week.
Yes,
Tempers were flaring and shit. You pressed the button and threw me out. It was classic.
I know,
and I gotta tell you something, people. I've gotten emails at the thing, the comments at Gmail, and we've gotten emails on the comments, and it's great. And I got an email this morning that they disagreed, that, you know, they didn't like the podcast. I got a couple of those last week, and it's like, people in life, people are gonna have disagreements. That's in life. My beef was I just didn't want to argue with you about it. I just wasn't in the mood to argue. We just I used to, when I was a kid, I would watch Meet the Press and I would watch Crossfire.
Right.
And I couldn't imagine how people would get so emotional over politics. Like, Jesus Christ. And you leave there and you know that you even know this, that you can't control it, but sometimes we get caught up in emotions. And my whole thing was, what you were talking about last week, we were discussing the media, and we were discussing children. And the most interesting thing about this podcast, and it happened with Mike Kessler, this happened with a lot of times that we've done podcasts, is we've discussed things, and that's been the end of it. And then you leave here and something happens, and now you understand what that person was saying, and we got to reference it. But I'm very lucky because shit gets put in my path. Somebody last night came up to me at Flappers, and we were just talking, and they were very nice, you know, at first. And I knew where they were coming from. It was the early show, so it was part of that, you know, hi, how are you? People were dressed up. It was a big night for people. And this girl was telling me, she goes, so are you on Facebook? And I go, yeah, Joey Diaz, whatever. I'm not computer. I don't know the slashes and the .coms and shit. And she goes, are you on Twitter? And this is really fucked up. She said to me, how many friends do you have on Twitter? And I got to be honest with you guys, I don't look at that stuff because to me it's like, sometimes I look at the Facebook one like, really? I know these people? Like, I don't even know. I don't even look at that stuff.
Yeah. I look at mine every day.
And she looked at the number and she goes, oh my God, you know, and it was right there. It all came to me. That's somebody who gets affected by the media. And they're a comic, and I know what type of comic they are. They're the type of comic that thinks like networking is cool. And that, like, if you post stuff on somebody else's popular webpage, it's cool, you know? And that's how they were looking at me. As they were talking to me, they were like, you have this many friends on Twitter, oh my God, you know? And it was just really funny how that's a person, I directly met a person who's very affected by the media, and that really controls them. And I really thought about my life, and I've never been affected by the media. The only media that's affected me is the one that affects everybody. Is when we're children, we all want to be rich. We all want to be rich. We all want to have the Maserati. We all want to have the perfect car. But as you get older, you realize that that's not the answer to life. That it doesn't work for you or whatever. And your dream goes away of being rich or having a yacht or, you know, having bitches dancing around as Joe Rogan does in the Jay-Z video. He always talks about Jay-Z. And it's just so weird. That's the only way the media ever affected me growing up, you know, for a while. And then you come to terms that you're just a fucking bum, and that goes away. So the media has affected me in that sense, you know. Like sometimes we have discussions, and I get stoned in the morning, and I come in here, and I can't think too fucking clearly, you know what I'm saying? So, and it happens to people, but when you leave here, you think about the real concept of the conversation. And in anything in life, relationships, there's always going to be disagreements, though.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just how you handle them, you know. I was never mad at you or anything like that. I love you to death.
That was a very bizarre incident.
What's really funny is that I thought about something, and we'll talk about it on the podcast, and the beauty we have is you always cut a button and zap it off. The last 3 weeks, you've had a lot on your mind. And I've seen that from an outsider. And I don't know how to reach out to you because you're very, You're very open with me, but you're personal, very close. We all are. We're comedians. We hold some things close to our chest. And it's weird that when something's bothering you in your life, it actually affects everything else in your life. Like it makes you react to things in a certain situation. How the fuck do I know? Because I live by that shit. I yell at Terry, you know what I'm saying? For no reason. Like we're just sitting there and I'll say, Terry, last week you didn't clean it. What are you talking about last week? Who gives a fuck about last week? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. After you say it, you're like, who gives a fuck? I did it. But and it's because I didn't get an audition that day. Or I got stuck in traffic.
Right.
Or I didn't get a gig.
Right.
You know, and it's just weird that I seen it that day. And you've had it for a couple of weeks, but you're great. I wasn't mad at you by no means, bro.
No, this is what life is about. Here's the thing, and I think we should absolutely talk about, because I told all my girlfriends, and believe me, when I tell you guys, Joey and me got into the biggest fight, and we were standing and screaming at each other at the top of our lungs, and he kept screaming at me, I don't want to talk about it anymore, and I kept screaming at him, I know, now get the fuck out. And you know what, I was kind of scared, but it felt kind of good too. And the funny part is there's a preschool right behind my house, and it was flying.
And the funny thing was I was scared of you. That's why I didn't even go in the house. I walked around the backyard. I thought you were going to stab me because your eye starts to twitch. And when I was a kid, I had a good friend, a girl that I grew up with that I still think about all the time. She's a great lady. And her eye would twitch when she'd get upset. And the next day she'd tell me what she was upset about. And I could tell you were upset. And I wasn't mad at you. I just, I never... In the history of this podcast is wide open to anything, guys. Ain't no fucking killing people, whatever. This is going to stay with us and the 20,000 listeners we have every week. Okay? I don't ever want to talk about the Kardashian sisters. I don't ever want to give them light. I want to do one thing with them. Let them suck my dick, the one little one that's married to the fucking guy. And that's it.
Today we went on a drive, and Joey was telling me the story about one of the memories you have of your mother.
Oh, I tell you people that, a lot of times I tell stories on here, but the stories are buried deep. As a human being, we buried our stories deep. That's why I tell people, and God, I'm not preaching about this, but I'm just telling you to get a fucking notebook next time you're at the supermarket. And I'm not talking about being comic. I'm not talking about being fucking Pablo Picasso, being Hemingway. I'm just talking about writing about your life. Just write about certain situations that bother you about your life that you couldn't figure out. And like I said 1,000 times on this show, I'm trying to put together a one-man show. And one of the key issues of the show was, for years after I got thrown out of Catholic school, my mother would always wake me up at night. And I always explained it wrong to people. Like, your mother wake you up at night. What a creepy thing to do. Yeah, she'd bring food and she'd be drunk and talk to me for a little while. But then I started writing about it. And I overread it one night. I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about? In the morning before you go to breakfast, before your kids go to school, you sit down with them and maybe one of them will ask a question about, Ma, what's a whorehouse? And you gotta bring. I don't know. I'm just, Ma, what's the word fucking slave mean, or something that you don't want to describe in the morning, and you talk to them, and at the end they'll say to your mom, but if they had slaves, weren't they prejudiced? And you go, what, honey? You give your take on it, and at the end the conversation ends with a moment. You touch their head and you go, see, you do learn something in school and everybody's happy. All right, get the fuck out of here. Go to school, kids. And that's your moment for the day. The other day I came over here and you were taking your kids out to California Kitchen. That's the best part of your day because it's just you three guys in the car and they're just throwing shit at you and your head's about to blow the fuck up. But that's your moment. I didn't have that with my mom. When I woke up in those days, there'd be breakfast, like a half-ass breakfast, or my mom would give me money to get an egg sandwich at a thing. But it was really weird that now, in retrospect, I thought about that moment. And that moment was at 3:30 every fucking night when she got home from that bar. Because she closed the bar at 3. She'd stop at the 4-star diner and get me a BLT or Cuban food from Hernandez's. It was always something. In those days, restaurants were open all fucking night. Or at least that's how I seen when I was a kid. And like I told you, they worked in a bar atmosphere with a lot of noise and music. So they spoke loud. I wasn't yelling at you the other day, Felicia. I just speak loud from my roots. That's who we are, And I learned this at, don't look at me like that, cocksucker. And it's funny because they used to come home and I could hear them talking in the garage, climbing up the stairs. And I go, these fucking hicks, you know, where the fuck did they learn manners? But in hindsight, they worked at music, so they talk loud while they were at the bar. And then my mom would say, Jose Antonio, which is my name, Jose Antonio. And I would say, I'm not waking up to this crazy bitch. And she would come upstairs and sit on the edge of the bed and give me my Cuban sandwich and give me like a Cuban soda, a matemba or an iron beer or a Coke even. And I'd pop up in bed and I'd eat the Cuban sandwich or whatever. And in that minute, she'd kick off her heels and she'd go, what a fucking night. And I go, what happened? And she goes, oh. And then my dad would be downstairs doing something, my stepdad, and she'd say a story about this fucking idiot. Put the hot water on. Now the boiler blew up. Now tomorrow I got to call a plumber. Remind your mom to call a plumber in the morning, okay, baby? And then she'd say, oh, we had a good night at the bar. And then she'd start taking money out of her bra. My mom had big titties. And she'd reach out and take a handful of one money out. Then she had the numbers money in that bra. Even though she had a purse with $5,000 in it, she had another stack of cash from the numbers that day. And then she'd have her betting slips in her bra. And while she was talking to me, she'd look at the betting slips and call herself a loser and throw the betting slips in the fucking air. And how she couldn't pick a winner. And then she'd tell me about her world. How that day she went to Harlem and the operation at one place isn't making enough money. She thinks somebody's stealing. She'd just tell me about her day. And then the last thing she pulled out of her bra was an aluminum foil that was all fucked up, that had been opened 20 times. And while I was eating my sandwich, I was maybe 11 or 12. It had to be after the 6th grade. So I would sit there and she'd do the last bumps of the night while she'd just talk to me. And I'd make believe like, Ma, must you? But at that point, I was like, fuck it, do what you're going to do. You're going to do it anyway. And I would just eat my little breakfast, my little Cuban sandwich dinner at 3 in the morning. And then at the end of the conversation, it would always end with like, how you doing in school? Did you do your homework tonight? You know, Coco, when you get older, I want you to be in the fucking service. And then you're going to go and you're going to become an attorney and you're going to represent me and my criminal buddies. And she would laugh. And I could get the fuck out of this business. But it was so weird that little 3:30 window was our world. It was our moment. You know, she'd tell me about her dreams, about me, her dreams for her, you know, her dreams for the future. And at the same time, she'd sprinkle in her day how fucking Tom Seaver should go get fucked in the ass because he got fucking shells by Cincinnati. You know, she'd tell me about her gambling or how the Mets lost to the Yankees. And, you know, it was just her opening up to me. And I remember that in that time, my stepdad would never interfere. Like, he would never interfere. There was something in that room that was powerful than all those conversations we had. And then it would always end with a kiss and I love you. You know those kisses you give your boys that they really don't want? Mom, what the fuck?
No,
you know what I'm saying? And my mom would be reeking on alcohol and Marlboro cigarettes. Don't fucking kiss me.
Yeah.
And then she'd give me like a 20 for lunch the next day. But that was our moment.
Yeah.
And it's so weird how you overlook those things in your life. And
you
that was our home.
Yeah.
You really do. Yeah. That was our home. That right there was home.
Yeah.
People think when you talk about a home that you have to have fancy cars and all this shit. Home is where your fucking heart is at rest, you know? It could be in a closet. It could be in a one-bedroom. You ever see people that don't have much, but they're so happy-go-lucky? And then you see people who are rich and they're fucking miserable all the time, and you say to yourself, what the fuck? You know, that guy's got nothing. He's content with what he got, but he's got a home. And he doesn't have much, but he's made the best of what he has, you know? So it's just weird how we overlook things from our youth. I hate how, as adults, we blame all our shortcomings on our parents and the way they raised us, and you know. But at the end, what I do remember about my upbringing is the love. I got a lot of love and respect as a human being, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Even her whipping a fucking cocaine gram out in front of me and finishing it without even offering it to you at that age, you know what I'm saying? At least offer me a fucking freeze, Ma. You know
I'm up now.
Yeah, I got an onion, you know. Look at Felicia cracking funnies and shit.
Wow, so she used to hide some stuff in her titties.
In her bra.
Wow.
She had pounds of fucking shit.
What was the weirdest thing she ever hid in there that you were
betting slips, Valiums. Like, she had those roll of Valiums one day. She goes, ooh, I forgot these. And she had like 80 Valiums rolled up. She'd just have tons of shit in there. Wow. And she knew exactly what the compartments were.
Yeah.
Like this side of the tit was cash from the bar. This side of the tit was cash from the bookmaking operation. This was phone numbers and business cards and, you know, if she got a ticket on the car or everything, any paperwork she had to bring home, she put it on this tit here. It was just brilliant. And I forgot about that conversation. And she'd take her shoes off and rub her feet. And, you know, it was just something that, it was the end of her day.
Right, right.
It
Well,
was
I'll
the
tell
end of
you,
her day.
that's a really great story. And when you were telling that in the car, I was like, you got to totally talk about that on the podcast. Because I've never hidden anything in my bra. I've never, my friend, when you got to have big,
Wendy hides
chi-chis.
shit. That's it.
Sometimes Wendy will hide something funky in her bra.
That's my girl. That's my girl.
So
That's old school when they hide shit. In their bra.
yeah.
And
I've
women
never
like
hid anything in my bra. I do, however, have a deadbeat dad hiding in my pussy right now.
lately, I'm trying to get this work in New York. Like I'm going to New York. I'm trying to put these weekends together. And I got to tell you something, Felicia. I get no respect. I'm not bummed out about it. Like everybody was like, well, we may be able to hire you or whatever. And I'm like, and it's so weird how in your life you always feel bad sometimes. You feel like a real underdog. And I don't mind that feeling. And I was telling you a story outside. I don't know how interesting it is or if we're not even going to keep it in here because it was about my buddy Chucky McBreen. That's the coach at Ramapo College. And today he's into NCAA tournament for Division III basketball, which is fucking great. Yeah. And if you know anything about this Chucky kid, he was 5'6" growing up the whole time, and people would always block his shot. But when this motherfucker was on, he was on. And he grew up in the weirdest house. He grew up in an Irish house where there's no support, and that's why the other day we were talking about kids and how, it's tough to be a kid nowadays. Kids now, you can't really yell at your kids or say something because they could call 911 on you, social services. I'm not into hitting fucking kids, but I'm into saying a couple things to them that might rattle their fucking cage because you have to do that sometimes, Somebody was telling me that they went to a softball game, a kids something game. I went to a kids basketball game last week, and somebody had asked me if I yelled, and I said no, I just went to see the kids, But I go, that was parents, and he goes, that's weird. That's Sherman Oaks or something. In Woodland Hills, when your kids play a sport, they're not allowed to yell because you might hurt the kids' feelings.
Yeah, they don't really like it when you yell.
They don't really like it when you yell, It
has to be a positive thing. They're not allowed to yell at all? You can't even yell at
No,
positive
that's
things?
one field up in Woodland Hills or
Really?
Encino up there. Those parents sign the pact. They throw you out. They fucking badmouth you. They throw you out of the Parents Association, and you don't have to say nothing like, come on, Timmy, try harder. You can hit a ball off this guy. Boom, you're out of there. Yeah. And it's so weird that, what does that do for the kid later on in life? And I just use episodes like that of kids having it easy now or harder now. When I sucked in basketball, I fucking sucked. I sucked because I knew it, and I sucked because everybody around me fucking told me, including the coaches. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's no feelings. You got to get better, kid. You got to go out there and play and get a fucking steak under you. You're too skinny, and you got to rebound. And it was just weird that I would go to this kid's house, and Chucky put his heart into basketball. Him and his brother, that's all they did. And they went to basketball camps, and they played CYO ball, and no matter what, 1,000 people told Chucky he was too short to play hoops, but his biggest critic was his father at the time. We'd come in and his father would say, Coco, did you beat Chucky in basketball? Like I told you, Chucky, you're too fucking small. You might as well become a water boy at this point in your life. I mean, it was just, I sit there now and I'm like, wow, this was cutthroat. And Chuck's dad died, and he had a sister that passed, and Chuck and I always stayed close. In fact, he's been out here twice to visit, to see Disneyland with his kids, and we always hook up. And it's so weird when he called me to tell me that he had made the NCAAs, because when he called me to tell me, I could feel he was calling me in a way to tell me, fuck my father. You were one of the few people that witnessed that behavior. Yeah. He didn't say it in so many words. But he called me to say, like, hey, you know what, man? Fuck my father. I hadn't heard from Chucky in a year. Yeah. So when I hung up on him, I go, I know where that phone call came from. Mm-hmm. Because I was one of the few people. His mother always had Kool-Aid, great Kool-Aid in the house. I had two friends who had great Kool-Aid. And his mother always had the spoon with the big tub of Kool-Aid. Then I had my other buddy, Ray Canella. They had Kool-Aid, but they didn't use water. They used salsa water. That's a complete different patois in the fucking Kool-Aid world. We get a lot of emails and stuff about people who this podcast turned their life around their way or woke them up. When I hear stories like this is what keeps me motivated. That I know the dream still continues. And 30 years fucking later. And I know he was in the NCAA tournament once before. But this time they're getting touted really high. The New Jersey paper did a write-up about him.
Oh, very nice.
And I'm very proud of him. As a human being, I'm very proud of him because I was there. I mean, his brother had the same problem. And his brother transferred to 3 different schools to get away from the father. And it's just weird how sometimes your parents pushing you, you know, I'm sure that's what he was saying to me. Fuck that cocksucker. This is not talk radio. We are not here to fucking promote comedy shows or promote how funny we... No. This is for us to open up our hearts to you guys. And some people are going to agree with our views, Felicia.
Right.
And we're not going to agree with each other's views, but that's what makes this podcast special. And I'm happy you people still love us and still send us shit. And thank you for all the gratitude and whatnot. Let me go to the sponsors and we got to get the fuck out of here.
All right, and I'll be in Chattanooga, Tennessee, March 17th through the 20th.
And I'll be at the Bitter End Comedy Club March 22nd, Brea Improv March 9th, and also the Comedy Club in Western New York from the 24th to the 26th. Get your tickets now, bitches. And with that, how about a word from our sponsors and an announcement to make? By the time you guys listen to this podcast, Skin will put a link up on their webpage for you to order the shirts. They will have all the prices for you and whatnot. We only got like 100 shirts. It's a collector's item type things. This is a way to support the RSS feed and whatnot. This is not for us to do blow or to take a ride to Mammoth or nothing. This is just to support the podcast and make it better. We're trying to make this better. We're working on animation. And Felicia's got a couple things up her sleeves. This is her department. So please bear with us. We're not looking for a handout. We will send you the best shirt you could have. And this podcast is going places. But it all starts with skinindustries.com. Go to Skin Industries, a leader in athletic apparel. And by next week, the link will be up with a picture of Felicia with a shirt on and yours truly. And you can order it and you'll be supporting the podcast. And this is your little thank you to us and our thank you to you. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And also to adamandeve.com.
Adamandeve.com for all your sexual freaky fucking pleasures. Go to adamandeve.com. Order something. Put Felicia in the fucking box. How do you spell it, sexy motherfucker?
FELICIA. And you'll get 50% off.
50% off.
Free shipping.
You get free shipping.
A special gift.
3 magazines.
And our undying love and gratitude.
That's right.
I like that right before I came over here and turned on the computer, we were giggling and whispering in each other's ears and rubbing our hands together conspiratorially like this.
Because we're getting ideas for the people in
We've been working on some
Podcastville.
stuff, and we're getting kind of excited about some little side stuff that we will have shaking. It takes us a while, but we get it done, you know.
It takes anybody a while in life. You know, things just don't happen. That's what happens to people. They make plans. They try something, they realize how hard the work is, and they give up before the dream happens,
Right,
you know?
yeah, and I'm guilty of that, for sure.
I'm guilty of it too, but once you get going, things happen, and because things happen, now you're put against a wall, and you have to fucking do certain things, and it's pretty enjoyable, because when you start doing something, you always think that you know the outlook or the outcome, but you really don't. It takes you in a different direction.
You really don't.
And if you don't adjust, the project goes down the drain. You have to adjust. And that's the same thing with life. You know, people are bitching about the economy right now and stuff. You got to, think your life over right now and see what other avenues you have available. And that's what the good thing is. This just isn't a podcast. This isn't just a ha-ha, hee-hee podcast, and I take pride in that.
Yeah, me too.
My condolences to Mikey DeStefano's family.
Yes.
Mikey passed away last night, and by the time this
Very funny
podcast comes up,
comedian,
people, very, very funny. It always hits you hard in the comedy community, like any other community, whether you're a photographer and a photographer dies. When a comic dies, we kind of know their struggle.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. This guy's been fighting for years, and all of a sudden he gets a little light shown on him, and he gets a massive heart attack and stuff. And all you can do is pray for him, and as a comedian, be a little stronger and, work harder now, and that's in any field, Anytime somebody dies, we've discussed this before.
Right. And we both admired him. I mean, he had some struggles or whatever. I didn't know as many as I was reading after you told me the unfortunate news. But and we admire that anybody who is still doing comedy after the age of 40 must fucking love it.
It's fucking tough, and he really loved it. He was very funny. He had an interesting background. He was an Italian kid from the Bronx. There's a lot of those, but he was hooked on drugs and whatnot, and he overcame it. He became a drug counselor, and from there he started doing the comedy. And it was funny, when I was struggling with coke years past, I used to call him.
Oh, yeah?
I would call him late night, and he'd talk to me and say it was okay, and to take my time with it, and to go to a meeting and stuff. And when I told him I was clean off the coke for a long time, I could tell in his heart genuinely was happy, because he knows it's not fun. It's not fun. It looks fun on paper, but it's not fun. And he knew I wasn't having a good time with it. And my heart goes out to his family. I know his brother dates a girl from my hometown, North Bergen, so I'll probably see him next week when I go home, and I'll give him some condolences and whatnot. This morning, I was writing about 1983, and in 1983, I had these. A friend of mine came to me one day and he said that he was going to Colorado and whatnot, and I said yes. And what I was really waiting for. I was trying to get my money together, but what I was waiting for was to rob these drug dealers. This one drug dealer, and I was going to take that money from the drug dealer, pay off a loan shark I owed like $6,000, to wait 10 days and then borrow like $50,000 and leave town. That was the plan. I was going to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, all financed by a drug deal. So yeah, I told you I don't fuck around.
Jeez
so
Louise.
This guy I knew lived in Union City, and in those days, drug dealers, it was getting real fast. Like life was moving fast. You went from selling an ounce to selling a kilo overnight. The demand was too much. So these drug dealers would put their drugs in different people's houses and cash. And this friend I knew, he wasn't really a friend, he was an acquaintance. One night got coked up and started telling the stories on it. Every month he gets 4 kilos delivered to his house, and he hides it under his car, because he had one of those antique cars, and he had a cloak over it, so he would hide it under the car, and like by the 10th, the guy would come and pick it up and pay him like $2,000 a month in his rent or something. And he just happened to slip. He didn't know that we were in a room of fucking thieves, So so I thought about it, and 4 fucking kilos, a lot of coke in those days. It was like $40,000 a pound.
But how much would 4 kilos be?
In those days, in '83, coke was all-time high. It was like $36,000 a pound. It was like 70 for a kilo, all that shit was just rough. So I figured if I get 50,000 for 4 pounds and take an ounce with me, I was good,
Yeah.
So it was funny because we waited. I had the guy all stoked out, and I was ready to go. And I bought this dark hat with little eyes like Charles Bronson tonight, and I broke into the garage. Yeah, I broke into the garage in the daytime. They had like a window with bars on it, and I had to go and work on the bars little by little. And I finally took one of the bars off, and another one of the bars off, and
How
then I
long did that
loosened the
take
window.
you
It took
to
me a couple of days,
Yeah. Oh, you would go like once a day?
Little by little. I would go down to Union City and then shoot over there, work for an hour, and then leave, And hopefully nobody would find out that I was trying to get in that window. It was a very big parking garage. So they would have thought that I was in there for drugs. It was maybe a bum or something. So finally I had the window open, and I waited till like the 3rd, and I fucking broke in there, and I walked in there with my little black jacket on, and I had a buddy waiting for me, and I went under the car, and I pulled it out, and instead of 4 kilos, it was like 1 pound. So I had like 3 partners on this fucking deal, plus I owed a bunch of money on this fucking deal. So here I am with 1 pound. I had all this shit promised. My $50,000 dream was down the tubes. Now I had to sell this shit for wholesale, and get my money and pay the different people I owed. It was a change in plans, but I still had the $6,000 to pay the loan shark.
Right.
So I get down there. Me and my buddy go back to his house. We break it up. We think win the thing. We start selling out wholesale. About a week later, a buddy of mine sees me and goes, "Hey, bro, that guy in Union City knew it was you guys."
Oh, really?
Somebody robbed him. It knew it was you guys, and he didn't say nothing. He could care less. The kid wasn't going to do nothing to us. He told the people whose coke it belonged, who he thought robbed us. So it was really weird that I had left to Colorado in '83, and I never thought anything about that. And a few months went by, and I got a call from a friend of mine. And he goes, "Hey, bro, not for nothing. A buddy of mine was at a coke party one night in Fort Lee, at a party, and people were doing blow. And he told somebody he was from North Bergen. By the end of the night, 2 guys came up to him and asked him if he knew who you were and stuff."
Oh, really?
So it was so weird that, these guys, I don't know if they were going to kill me. They were going to probably hit me in the head or shoot me in the leg or whatever. And then, I left Colorado. I left New Jersey and went back to Colorado. And then a year later, I went back to Jersey and I started my whole fucking bullshit all over again. And that time I was fucking around with some major league people. And I fronted off
the
these...
Galaxy Towers?
Well, not even the Galaxy Towers. I had fronted coke off these Cubans. And I had given them a watch to hold this collateral, like a Seiko watch with diamonds, and they let me take the coke. Or, we had this watch from a heist left over, and I'm like, I know what I'll do. I'll go over there and tell them I can't sell it, give them the watch, and then for collateral, and come back in an hour or so. But I took like 4 ounces from these guys, and these guys meant business. So it went on for like 8 months. I lived in Jersey, and then I beat my godfather. And the day before I left Jersey in '85, my godfather pulled up to me with a motorcycle, and he's like, "You never came to me and apologized or gave me that money." He goes, "I spoke to your dad. The next time I see you, I'm going to put a bullet in you." And he put the sheen down. He took off. So for an hour this morning, before I found out about Mikey the Stefan, I'm sitting there going, "Fuck, how lucky was I that I escaped." I don't know if it was death. You know, this guy would have definitely shot me. Gabby would have definitely shot me. No questions asked. But it's so weird how I was sitting there going, how lucky
that was your mom's friend,
that
right?
was my mom's friend from Cuba. That was my godfather.
Right. You told the story about how he would always have he would take you to go get
to
a
the
suit,
movies
right?
and a suit. And he was a great guy, but it was just that when it came to money and stuff, he was dead serious. And he told me, "I'm going to put a bullet in you." He chased me one day, like months before that. He chased me. And I remember I had thorn bushes in me, and I went into Hashway's Deli, and he came out and was yelling at me. He said, "How can you do this to me?" He goes, "I was your godfather. You fronted all this money." He goes, "Next time I see you, I'm going to shoot you."
Why did you do that, by the way?
Why the fuck did I do half the things I did? I was a kid, you know. I was 19, 20. Everybody was going out.
It was so wild that he took you as a little boy to go get a suit. And then
suits, movies,
and then everything. Cut to 7 years later. I'll put a bullet in your head. That's the mechanic, by the way.
The underlying subtext of that was, he was at my mother's funeral.
Right.
So he had said to me, "I'm your godfather. Do you want to live with me?" And I was like, "No." And then he was like, "Well, I'm your godfather. I'm gonna keep in touch with you, and if you need something." He kept in touch with me for like a month. And after that, he just disconnected the number. I didn't talk to my godfather again until 84 or 85. And it was like, "Who the fuck are you?" And now he's starting to talk to me. He's like, "Well, if you want to make money, you could sell some blow." So it was like, I was mad at him in a way. I was hurt by him. Like, after all these years, you give me blow to sell. What would my fucking mom say, But I took it, and I never gave him the money. I was angry. I was really hurt and angry, Now, 20 years later, plus the cocaine was off the chain. It was delicious. And I did it all. It was Halloween weekend, and I did the whole fucking thing. And I always felt bad about it, but it was so funny how I've escaped death, like 2 times. Like, I knew that there was people looking for me, and they were looking to shoot me. And then in Colorado, I fronted a bunch of blow, and I don't think those people were going to shoot me. But I'm sure they would have done something to me eventually. It's so weird. And also, I find out about Mike DeStefano. And I'm like, you see, this, you could go at any fucking time. That's why you have to give life 150%. Right now, I'm falling in love with writing. I've really, for the last 2 years, I really like it. I can't believe how I know when I'm in a bad mood.
You're a really good writer, Joey.
I'm just trying to learn. I'm trying to fucking learn. I want to write books. I want to do all these little things. But before you can do this, you have to start with blogs and paragraphs. I had to figure out how to write a fucking paragraph. 3 years ago, one day, I was reading all these blogs. I'm like, wow, this is pretty neat. I wish I could do it. And then one day I was stoned, and I said to myself, what do you mean I wish I could do it? I could fucking do it. And I went on MySpace, and I started writing blogs. And for the first 6 months, it was amazing because I got no support. People called me stupid. I didn't know how to spell. I didn't know about paragraphs. I didn't know about punctuation. I didn't even know about fucking spell check. I didn't know that was that red line. I told you, I thought it was just a specific line and you're a genius. So I would leave it there. And then little by little, you start learning and you keep writing. But I stuck with it every fucking Monday, Felicia. First thing, I even stopped going on the road with it if I had to work on Monday mornings.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to stick to this. One thing I admired about Mitch Hedberg is that every morning he woke up and he wrote for 2 or 3 hours with the phone shut off.
Absolutely.
And that's,
absolutely.
I read a book, The Art of War, The War of Art. And
The Art of War, yeah.
There's one about Sun Tzu where he teaches you how to go to war and fight other people. Then there's one about writing that was written by the guy that wrote The Legend of Vagger Vance. And he talks about how for 16 years he just wrote, and his wife supported him, and he sold nothing. And all of a sudden one day he sold this Legger of Vagger Lance to fucking the black kid and Matt Damon or whoever.
The
Legend of
Bagger Vance.
And it's so weird that he goes, you know what, I wrote every day. He goes, it's so weird how I met writers that would open up a page, write something, and then that's it for the day. And he goes, I know that writing is discipline.
Yeah.
Writing is discipline. It's sitting there with a pencil in your mouth, clicking it, stoned with a thing of water, mind fucking yourself. But he goes, if you don't sit down, even the days that you don't write nothing, he goes, there's so many days that I've been in front there, sitting there, and for an hour, and I'm ready to give up, and all of a sudden I'll get 3 fucking thoughts that are mind-boggling. But it wouldn't have happened if I didn't sit my ass down. Sitting your ass down. But this applies to everything in life.
To anything.
Whether
That's what
again,
I
whether
liked
you're a
about the
plumber, a
conversation,
hair
yeah.
cutter, a fucking barber, a dick sucker, whatever you
Right.
do, if you keep doing it and figure out different ways about it, it's gonna pan off. Even if nobody pays you money, it's gonna
Yep.
pan off because at
If
least
you
did
like it,
something
if
for
you,
yourself.
yeah, that's right.
And that's the most important thing in life, that we're all a jack of all trades, but there's got to be fucking something. And that's not what the conversation's about, but it was just this blog. And I started there with 3 views. And what people don't know is when I first started writing the blog, Felicia, I was hoping that nobody would look at it.
Yeah.
I just wrote it to write it, just to do this exercise. And next thing you know, you get 100 views, and people are like, hey, you're a fat dummy, and you're this. But some guy would write, hey, man, that's a great story. You know, learn how to spell or something. So
Right.
you got little by little, I flipped them. And it's just mind-boggling to me now how I'm addicted to the stage. I love doing podcasts with you, but another facet of my day is writing.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes I write about football. Sometimes I just write and erase it.
No, you have to. Like, I've been doing this thing where I'm trying to write a joke every day on my Facebook. But, you know, that's a big thing to write. For me, to write one joke, it takes a while. You know, I just sit and try to do it.
It takes a while to write any joke. How many times have you written a joke and you think that's the joke that's going to change your life? And all of a sudden in there's a joke that's even fucking better, but you didn't figure it out till you did it on stage and you got high and all of a sudden you were, you know, but nothing's going to happen unless you try. And beside that, we're here. We had another fun-filled fucking weekend on the
Yeah.
Beat and the Beast podcast.
Right.
I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Thank you very
I
much.
love Felicia with all my heart. Dirty bits
I know.
as she is.
I'm interested to see how I'll edit the podcast because this week was a pretty crazy week
Yeah,
for
it was
us.
a pretty crazy week. So please, hope you enjoyed. Have a great week. We love you. Mwah.
Mwah.